There are two further questions to be asked, along with those that have previously been posed to you. The first question arises out of a personal experience, and the second out of the story to be told. From the age of 46, there were 9 years spent with a spiritual master in Hawaii, 7 of them almost daily in her presence. After several years with her, I woke up one morning and was about to commence my yoga asanas that started every day, when suddenly I fell down on my knees, weeping, sobbing. And when I got up, I went to the telephone and dialed the Divine Mother's number, and between my sobs, I said to her, "Divine Mother, the love has gone." And she said to me, "Come now, I've been waiting for this." So I got in the car immediately and went to her house. And when I fell down sobbing in front of her, she just said to me, "It was the wrong kind of love." When I went back to the apartment on Waikiki, and after the crying had ceased, I asked myself, what does she mean? She has always told us that there is only one love, one power. How can she say that it was the wrong kind of love? So the first question that's posed to you is, from your own experience, why was it the wrong kind of love? And the story already told, but allowing a question to be posed that relates to the anecdote just told. It's that story about the young, handsome and virile man called Ranjit. And Ranjit was a very successful merchant. But Ranjit was in love. He was desperately, totally and utterly besotted with a young and beautiful prostitute that lived on the other side of the wide river that ran through his town. Her name was Chintamani. He adored Chintamani. He could not think of anything else but Chintamani, and when he was not with her, his heart longed for her. One day, at the end of his day of trading, he could not wait to make his way across the river to his beloved, his beautiful Chintamani. But a great storm had come, and the river had risen to a dangerous height, flooding through the town. But Ranjit went down to the place where the ferry boats were moored, and he asked the ferrymen to take him across the river, but all of them refused. They said, "Can't you see that the river is so dangerous to cross? We would be foolish to even try." Ranjit stood on the side of the banks, longing and desire rising up in his heart. He could not wait to be in the arms of his beautiful, beautiful, beloved Chintamani. So he decided. He jumped into the river with the intention of swimming across, but the river was fast, rapid, dangerous, and he was very swiftly carried off in its current. He was a good swimmer, but even he was unable to fight the power of the river, and he was almost drowning when suddenly, in the darkness, as the night had already fallen, he felt a log coming by, and he grabbed the log and held onto it, and he was able to guide himself to the far shore. When he climbed out of the river, he dragged the log up, thinking that he could use this log to make his way back after he'd been with his beloved. Then he made his way to her house. But when he arrived there, it was all in darkness, and he went from door to door, and all of the doors were locked. What was he to do? But then he went around to where the chamber, the bed chamber of Chintamani was located above him, and he looked up longingly. And there he saw what appeared to be a rope hanging down from her balcony, and his heart lifted. Oh, Chintamani has left me a rope to climb. And so he climbed up the rope, climbed over the balcony, the balustrade, and crept into her bedroom. And there she was. In the moonlight he could see her beautiful face, her alabaster skin, and he leaned over to kiss her, the water from the river dripping on her face and waking her out of her slumber. She looked at him and said, "Ranjit, Ranjit, what are you doing here? How did you find your way across the river in this storm?" "Oh," said Ranjit, "I could not bear to be without you for another moment. And when I jumped in the river, I found a log and made my way to the other bank. And then I'm so grateful for the rope that you left for me." Chintamani said, "I left no rope for you." She said, "Let us go and see." And taking a lantern, both of them went out to the balcony, and there they saw, hanging from the balustrade, a deadly viper that had frozen in the cold of the storm. Chintamani said, "Oh, you could have been killed. Now let us go and see on the riverbank how you made your way here." And when they went down to the riverbank, they found that it was not a log that had floated by, but the dead body of a fisherman who had drowned. They went back to Chintamani's chamber, and Chintamani fell down on her knees before Ranjit, and she said, "Oh, my beloved Ranjit, the love that you have for me is so great. I am unworthy. I am merely a courtesan, a prostitute. The love that you have is only worthy to be given to God." In that moment, Ranjit's heart changed, transformed. He also knelt before Chintamani, thanking her thanking her with all his heart, and then he took his leave and made his way back across the river. The very next day he entered a temple that worshipped the great Krishna, and there he stayed, undertaking the practices, the rituals of devotion to Krishna. 9 years. One day he was out with his begging bowl to seek alms from the townspeople when he saw a woman come out of the temple, long black hair flowing down her back, and his heart rose up. Chintamani, Chintamani. And he followed that woman until she reached the door of her house. She turned around, and there Ranjit, in his monk's robes, and she said to him, "What is it that you want of me?" Because Ranjit, of course, saw that this was not Chintamani. He bowed to her and said, "Please, madam, will you bring me 2 needles?" The woman obliged, and she brought out 2 needles and handed them to Ranjit. He took those 2 needles and plunged one in each of his eyes. He became a great being, writing poetry of love. The question that arises from this second story is, why? Why did Ranjit blind himself? First question, why was it for me the wrong kind of love? And why did Ranjit take the needles and blind the eyes which bring the senses, the objects of desire? How do these 2 stories relate one to the other? Why was it the wrong kind of love? And why did Ranjit need to blind himself? Where do they meet, these 2 stories?